So in this video, I need to make this rack pivot. The first thing I need to do is turn down that 125 length. And that's fairly straightforward. I'm starting with square stock. I trued that thing up in a 4-jaw chuck. You take time to make sure you're getting that thing concentric. With a 4-jaw chuck, you can get it perfect. But that takes a little bit of time, but the more I do 5 of these, so you definitely get better as you go along. So you can see me at first taking a pretty aggressive cut, get all the squares off, and then trying to come down awful close to 125. I've learned the trick with keeping these things concentric and fairly even diameter is be aggressive. It's the opposite you might think. Once I did that, really in 2 cuts, brought it to 125, then just a parting tool to turn this off. The way these things work is I've got an 832 on the other side that will screw into the plates. So this square gets cut off, and then you of course need to put threads on that. So the first thing I wanted to do is clean up the square. I mean, inevitably the stock has some cuts and scribes, so the best time to get it fairly polished up is right now before those threads are cut on, so you still have some area that's a good enough flat. Once you cut those threads and the other end, there's very little to hold on to. So you could polish it with a fixture, but you could do most of it. I figured before I put those threads on and just keep it fairly clean and watch how you hold on to that square. So you've got a good looking part in the end. So what I had to do next is put in a 060 hole in the end. So what I did is I put a brass block that's basically the same. This is a 0.25 square. So I got a 0.25 square brass that's cut perfectly reamed at that 0.125. Come in here, locate it on the mill. Any of these small cutters, I really like cutting them on the CNC. You could always do it on the drill press. But the CNC is just so rigid, and this Tormac I've got will spin at 10,000 RPM, which is fine for these small cutters. That brass, I had to do 4 of these with the 125 shaft, and I could use that as a fixture. Now here's where it got difficult. I need one of these that's got a 0625 shaft. First time I tried to make it the same way is hold on to that shaft to turn the threads, and it bent quick. So then I figured, I'll do the other end first. I'll put the threads. Then when I tried to hold it on there was just not enough aspect ratio. It ripped right out of that 4-jaw chuck. So I figured I got to find a different way to make this thing. So I developed this fixture, cut the shaft and then square it in there. But it snapped out. I thought I could just hold it in there, but it didn't. It had enough room to move. So finally, what I did is I used the old trick of super glue. I figured there was no other way to hold that. You see that small aspect ratio. This one, I don't put a hole through it. I'm going to thread it. It's just easier to hold things on with a thread. And you can see I did get a good part, but that was by, again, putting it in with super glue into that chuck. And that to remove that part, that's super glued in there, just hit it with a torch. I mean, hit it until smoke comes off, and you can see now I finally got a good part. Hope you enjoyed this. If you do, please subscribe, and we'll be back soon.